Hi guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So we're just here for another episode of the junk journal that we've been making. So I thought what we'd do is the kind of one of the inside of the covers. So if you recall, we were going to use just this hardback cover, book cover, which I've just obviously snipped off of a book. So I was kind of obviously hunting around for more junk last night. And I came across an old pair of shoes. So just to kind of show you, it was these shoes here. Haven't worn them for yonks, like years. They were just at the bottom of my wardrobe. So what I've done is obviously cut on one of them this whole section away. And I'm hoping that this is going to work. It had lining, so it hadn't touched my foot or anything like that, in case you're wondering. It had lining, which I've obviously cut it away from the lining, so and tore it away from that. So I'm hoping that we can kind of form a kind of pocket here at the side, maybe to an angle. We could have it kind of going straight across. Actually, that looks really cute. Maybe actually I prefer it than the angle. I hadn't even tried it straight across until just that second, so yeah, I quite like it like that actually. So I think we'll have it like that. So what we'll do first of all is we will just decorate a little bit around the page. So again, I'm just going to kind of continue with the theme of using this huge stamp. I'm loving this stamp at the moment, kind of having resurrected it. Always was a favourite of mine, and just, kind of fell by the wayside, I suppose, as I got kind of more stamps. But now it's kind of been dug out, I kind of remembered why I loved it so much. So I'm just going to kind of stamp down here. Hopefully this is going to work okay. Oh, it's a little bit dry today. I thought the ink pad had kind of come back to life a bit, but no, not so much today. So we'll just kind of do over there in that corner. And then I'm just going to kind of just to kind of like finish it off more, if you see what I mean, so it's not just square, if that makes sense. And then I'm just going to do a little bit in the corners, just in case if we have it straight across, I don't want it kind of just being blank space down there, if that makes sense. So that's that. Now obviously we will then ink around the page. So we'll ink it first of all, obviously just in the vintage photo in the first instance, just so as it looks, nice and vintage. And then we'll probably go around this a bit with some pink as well, so it's got, kind of a bit of dimension, I suppose, and kind of, two-tone kind of colour. So I hope you're all having a good day. It's very dark here today, so I've actually got the main light on and the lamp. It is daytime, it's not nighttime. But it's frustrating because I don't know how the light kind of comes out. Right, let me just stand up, check I'm filming. Most important, obviously, to check that I'm filming. Have to check that all the time these days now. And we're going to kind of have this here, and then we're probably going to kind of cover up certainly this side, maybe not this side so much, but we'll probably kind of cover that up anyway. And I'm just going to take the pink distress ink. Again, I still only have the one ink pad, but what we'll do, we're just kind of literally, just distress slightly in the corners and the edges in the pink. And then that just gives that a really nice kind of pink, delicate kind of tone there. I mean, I just think that looks beautiful just as that is. It's just kind of nice to have the pink kind of showing through a little bit. So I think that looks really pretty. So if we have this here, now I'm wondering whether we could do a kind of big fabric flower down here in the corner. you know, we could have something else going up here. I've also got all these stamped images, which, I mean, these are actually images that I had stamped initially for my Olive Garden journal. And so these are just kind of the overspill that I hadn't used. But I thought we could use them obviously in this journal. You know, they are just on an old envelope, so they're completely in keeping with what, you know, what we're doing here. Excuse me. So if I just tear out this one of the postmarks, yeah, being on kind of an old envelope, I just think they are actually junk. So, you know, they're completely kind of within the rules of the journal. We could have that one kind of off there. I like that. Looks nice there. And then I've got kind of other stamps, obviously. And we've got some tickets, which may be quite nice. Oh, talking of the tickets, that's just reminded me. I just want to show you quickly what I did after I finished filming. I did kind of hunt through my pile a little bit more thoroughly. And I did come across another bright blue flowers. I actually came across about 4. So I've got some more kind of in my pile, but I just wanted to show you that because I just quickly stuck that on there after I finished filming on the last episode. So that was that page, and I was debating, you know, wanted to put another flower there, and I thought I had some in my pile, but I didn't want to waste everyone's time endlessly looking. So I just wanted to show you that because I didn't really want to kind of be doing things, you know, without you guys. So, I mean, I kind of quite like how that's looking already. Obviously we can have some kind of ruffly edge here. So if I kind of just... Now this is where this fabric doesn't really want to tear going this way, because obviously it's really kind of not in the line of the fabric because it's been kind of cut into a triangle. It's not its natural place, if that makes sense. So there we go. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, try and ruffle it up a little bit. There we go. So we could have kind of maybe a bit of ruffle kind of going along here. I'm already kind of really liking how this is looking. Obviously we have got a paper flower which we could use. I mean, really kind of, I'm just looking to kind of, you know, disguise this corner a little bit. So, you know, kind of we could do anything really down there. You know, or we could kind of have the fabric ruffle, I don't know, going along the bottom or kind of here, which would kind of take care of some of it. But I do quite like the ruffle up there. So just pop that up there. So if we maybe make a flower, and then, you know, we'll decide whether we want to use it or not. So again, just going to pull in some paper bag just to use as, you know, the base of the flower. So I'm just going to cut a circle from the bag. I'll just move this to one side. Now, just wondering what to do with this flower. Want it kind of biggish because we want it to obviously A, have quite an impact, you know, and B, obviously cover up quite a big area there. So let me just pull in that skirt again. My pile is very messy again. I watched a video by Tracy Fox, and she had her camera set up with her desk. I couldn't believe it. Her desk area was so tidy. I literally couldn't believe it. I mean, this is obviously not my desk, this is my son's desk, and so this is just the little amount of things that I bring in for this video. And, you know, even this pile is a mess. I can't even begin to tell you the mess that my own desk is. So, you know, because obviously that very rarely gets cleared, if ever. So it's a complete and utter tip. So I just couldn't believe, really, the the tidy state of her desk. You know, I don't know quite where all her stuff is. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just literally kind of almost speechless, kind of how somebody's desk could be so tidy when, you know, I kind of get it, obviously, if you're doing a kind of office job or something like that. But I mean, if you're crafting, I don't see how your desk can be so tidy. You know, because crafting is quite a messy pastime, isn't it? So, yeah, I was literally speechless when I saw the amazingly tidy desk. And what I'm going to do, because I want this flower to be quite poofy, or puffy, I don't know, poofed up, I'm going to actually kind of fold it into quarters, I think. So let me just cut a bit more fabric. So let me just cut around it like this. Oops. Yeah, I know lots of people have done videos of their craft room tours. I mean, I haven't exactly got a craft room. We had our loft converted into a kind of family area, and that's where my craft space is. I love it. You know, it's really great because I have got my own space now. You know, not that I ever obviously use it for videos. A, it's too messy, and B, I have nowhere that I would be able to kind of put a camera set up. Whereas my son's got obviously a shelf kind of right above his desk, which just is perfect. Yeah, I absolutely love kind of my area up there. I mean, some people's craft rooms are amazing. But again, incredibly tidy. So I don't know whether it's lack of space, why mine is not tidy, although, you know, Tracy Fox, she appeared to just have a kind of desk area, a bit like myself, kind of in another room, you know, a room that's used predominantly for other things. It wasn't like she had a dedicated craft room. But mine is definitely not a tidy one at all. I actually find it quite stifling when things are very tidy. I know that sounds almost a contradiction in terms, really, but on the odd occasion, and I mean very odd occasion, that I have a proper thorough tidy up and I kind of put things away and, you know, things are neatly in boxes and things like that, I actually find that quite stifling and, you know, not very good for kind of inspiration, because things are so far then out of sight, I actually forget all about them. And therefore, you know, when I come to make something, I kind of can't really remember, you know, all what I've got. And so therefore, you know, things don't kind of come together so easily, if that makes sense. So, yeah, for me, this is my excuse. For me, I almost find working in a mess works better for me. I mean, not maybe quite as much of a mess as I do work in, you know, but certainly if things are actually packed away tidily in boxes, let's say, you know, kind of a box of fabric, a box of, I don't know, you know, lace and things like that. I actually find that quite tricky because I do actually then, you know, struggle to kind of remember what I've got and to actually then use things. So you know, for me personally, I sometimes find messy working works better. And I'm not saying that that works for everybody. You know, obviously a lot of people are very tidy and obviously find working in a tidy environment much more, you know, helpful for them. But yeah, for me personally, I kind of almost, you know, I sometimes love having a clear your desk journal, and not that my desk ever gets cleared. You know, it's always so full of stuff that it never does actually get cleared. But, you know, kind of a journal where I just literally use whatever's laying around on my desk. I sometimes find that quite fun and quite fun and quite, I was going to say helpful, but maybe that's not quite the right word. I'm just going to cut this down slightly more. Actually, I will cut them both down slightly more. Yeah, I sometimes find that quite inspirational, would be the word. You know, because coming across things that are kind of just buried under the mass of mess, and then thinking, oh, that looks good there. Sometimes find that quite inspirational and helpful. So yeah, but don't get me wrong, my craft room really should be a lot tidier than it actually is. You know, there's no excuse for the extent of the mess that is in there at the moment. You know, it really doesn't need to be as messy as it is. But to be honest, I think as well, it's very surprising how quickly things do get in a mess. I mean, for instance, when I start these series, you know, obviously when I come to the desk, my pile is quite neat. I'm not saying it is by the later episodes, because I don't necessarily kind of pack away in a tidy fashion. I can't claim to pretend that. But certainly at the start of the process, you know, the pile is quite tidy and ordered. But honestly and truthfully, within 5 minutes of starting the video, my stuff is everywhere. So, you know, I don't know how people kind of actually manage to work in a really kind of organised fashion, because I think very quickly, in crafting terms, things get very disorganised, you know, exceptionally quickly. So I'm just literally layering up little bits and bobs here. So just going to pop this down here, and I'm going to try and kind of scrunch this a bit like that. So I just kind of scrunched it as I glued it, if that makes sense. And then we've got another one here, and I'm just going to kind of attempt to do the same here on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of stick it down and then kind of scrunch it as it's gluing. Okay, so I mean, I think that's a cute flower. And then what I'm going to do is kind of ink it a little bit, so as it's looking a little bit more kind of distressed. I'm just going to go around the edge. And I love how that kind of ruffles up the fabric also. So it gets even tattier, and I really like that look. Makes the petals kind of come alive somehow. So what I'm kind of thinking is, if we have this down here, have a kind of ruffle up there, and then, you know, that flower looks quite pretty down there. And obviously we'll have a look for what we're going to put in the centre of it in a moment. So I quite like that. So I'm going to go for it today, and we'll just glue this piece of envelope down with the postmarks stamp. So we'll just pop that on there. Right, now this piece here, I'm going to try and stretch it a bit as I stick it, if that makes sense. So I think what I'll do is probably glue one side down and then kind of work my way across. So I will probably start on this side So if I just run a little bit of glue down here, and we'll just glue it like that, just so it's kind of attached there. And then as I glue this, I'm going to kind of attempt to kind of stretch it out as much as I can. So I'm just going to run the glue there, and then we're just going to kind of stretch it and stick it like that. And then we'll do the same here. With the stretching and sticking like that. And then obviously the final run of glue up here. Like that. That was a lucky find, wasn't it? So I'm just going to trim off this piece that's there and trim this off a little bit. I quite like it overhanging, so I'm not going to kind of neaten it up too much, but just a little bit so as it wasn't so kind of pointy. You see what I mean? So I think that's kind of nice hanging over like that. So looks cute. Now I might just get rid of a little bit of this at the bottom, not because it's bothering me overhanging, it's not, but just to kind of straighten it, because otherwise it does look very rounded, if you see what I mean. Oh, it's cute now, it looks like a bowl. To me, it looks like a bowl. Oh, covered in the threads from the hot glue. So, oh, come on, go in the bin. Let me check I'm filming and in frame. Yes, right, okay. So, now what we'll do is just pop this flower kind of here. I'm just kind of going to check everything is kind of where I want it. Now, I'm wondering if this is going to be very stretchy. Well, that's probably a good thing, because then you can get lots in there. So I'm just going to ink this up a little bit more. Just bring in a piece of that catalogue page just to kind of distress this a little bit more. And then we're going to kind of ruffle this down on the edge like that. I'm going to have the flower here. Just wonder whether we want any of our little tickets. I'll just come out of the light a little bit so as I can see a little bit. I still can't see properly because my scissors are still casting pretty large shadow. Oh, a little bit. There we go. Whether we could have that kind of up there, or we might be able to kind of have it somewhere down here. Quite wanted a ticket somewhere, I don't know quite where it needs to go. And then might pop a butterfly somewhere on here. So I do love the butterflies. They just look so pretty. So I'm just going through my pile that's sat beside me to find one that I have already stamped. So if we just cut this one out here. Again, I'm just going to cut this kind of out of frame so that I'm, you know, not picking up so much glare with my scissor blades. Oh, come on. I'm making a bit of a hash of this for some reason. I think because I've moved where I've moved them to, it's actually very dark. So, oh, and now I've dropped it into the bin, and it's, or you know, the bag I'm using for a bin. It's dropped right to the bottom, so I can't see it. I'm going to have to do another one. Sorry, I know this is really tedious. I dropped it and it just fell straight to the bottom of the bag. And the bag is very, very, very full because I've been using the same bag, obviously, every time that I've been doing this junk journal. You know, when I bring my pile, I also bring my bag of my rubbish, and it's just dropped literally straight to the bottom. And you know, the bag's so full, I would not have the single hope of actually now finding it in the bag. I don't know what's going on with my cutting today either. Not made a great job of this one. I think what's happened, where I've moved it, it's actually really dark. So not only do I have the shadow of the scissors, but it's also very dark, so I can barely see. So, right. So maybe something like that, I think, looks quite nice. So we'll just glue this ruffle down. Obviously, I can't staple this one. So we'll just run some glue down the side. And then literally I'm just kind of pinching this in, gluing it on here. So again, we're just gluing it down like that. And then along here, I'm just going to kind of ruffle it up. And then I wondered, I don't know whether this is going to work or not, whether we could kind of have it hanging there, just over that corner. So I might just kind of glue it onto there, so that it's not flapping around too much. I think that looks really pretty like that. Okay. So this flower, we're just going to pop this here. Now, obviously, this is kind of dropping down, if you see what I mean. It's 2 levels. So what I've got to do is decide, do I pop it here on the actual book or here onto the fabric? So I think what I'm going to do is pop it onto the book. I'm just going to check whether that's kind of overhanging a lot at the front. Obviously, the petals are. I don't mind that. But I didn't want the paper round backing on. So luckily it's off to one side, so what I'm going to do is just glue that like that and then pop it down, but I will view from the back to make sure I'm kind of going up as much as I can, if you see what I mean. So that looks really cute. I wonder if my ticket could go kind of on here. I mean, actually, I'm thinking a bow would look rather pretty on there. I can't see that little tiny bit of ribbon anywhere, you know, just poking out, which is a bit of a shame because I don't really want to kind of go hunting through everything again, because I feel like I'm constantly doing that, and you guys must be, you know, feeling so irritated by me constantly having to search through to find things. Right, so obviously we need a centre for the flower, so I've got my big thing of buttons here, so just have a rummage through, see if I can see one that might look cute. I'll keep that one out for a moment and just have a little more of a rummage. That's quite cute. Right. Very white, that one. What's this one? Oh, that one's pretty, isn't it? It's kind of pearly, although actually it looks like most of the pearlescent has actually kind of come off, obviously, you know, over time. Got this little fabric one, that's quite sweet. That might have been that one that I wanted to use a few episodes ago. We've got this one. Right, let's have a look. Just going to glue the butterfly down, and again, purely for speed, I'm just going to use the hot glue like that. Right, let's decide which centre that we want. That wasn't quite nice. It's very chunky, but... And again, I haven't got my little metal cutter things, jewellery cutter things, so I'm going to attempt to cut that bit off with the scissors. I don't think it's going to work. No, it doesn't want to come off. Oops, it has come off finally. Flicked goodness knows where, but I'm just going to kind of try and trim off. Oh! I didn't want to actually lose the button, so thankfully it seems to be the back bit that's flicking off rather than the button itself. So, I mean, that looks cute, doesn't it? So I think I'm going to go for that one. And again, I normally just like to actually hold the button itself and glue it like that. So I'll just do that. Very pretty. It's very pretty. So, I mean, I think this page looks really cute now. I would have liked a little bow here, so I might hunt around, you know, in slow time and try and find that ribbon so that we can make a little bow. Yeah, I'm not going to kind of try and do that now because I don't want to kind of just really bore everybody again. So, we've got that like that. Okay. So, I mean, I think that page looks really pretty and, you know, kind of good enough as it is. Now, I did wonder whether we could do the cover now. I have been trying to decide what to do. Let me check I'm in frame and filming. Yep. I've been thinking what to do with the cover and I have laid out some bits. So this is from the handbag that I showed, obviously, you know, in an earlier episode. And I thought it would be kind of fun to use this handbag. So I'm just kind of laying it out. Now, obviously the handbag was not very big and where it kind of curved round, it had lots of stitching in the corners and things. So this was kind of as big as I could get, if you see what I mean, from the piece of the bag. Hopefully it will be big enough. So what I'm going to do is kind of chop it here. Like that. Probably pop that straight in the bin. So it's not just hoarding more things for the sake of it, really. So if we were to kind of glue it on like this. Now, the other thing that I thought that I should have tried really was I should have tried Mod Podging this to check that this is going to kind of be a good durable surface. Unfortunately, I have not got my Mod Podge with me, so I can't do that. Now, I would have quite liked to have obviously had a thinner layer because this is kind of onto this foam, but as you can see, the pink is literally just a very thin coating on the front. So I can't, you know, I can't odds that. I'm going to have to go with it being that thick sort of foam edge, if that makes sense. So, you know, that's fine. I don't mind that. So now we just need to decide kind of how to have this. So this top bit's not very straight. Let me try and straighten this up a little bit. I mean, again, I'm not looking to have this perfect. I'm trying to kind of, you know, effectively have a kind of shabby chic kind of vintagey look. So, you know, we don't need it to be 100% kind of perfect. We want it to have a bit of a rusticy, unique kind of effect. So I think what I would do is kind of get gluing this down. So I'm going to glue it in sections. So if I start up here, let me check I've got enough glue. So I'm going to pop another glue stick in. Obviously, I think the way to do this is with the hot glue. You know, I don't know quite what else it would kind of stick with very well. So there we go. Want to make sure it's kind of where we need it. Right. So I'm going to just cover around the edge in the hot glue, and some obviously in the middle, like that. So hopefully it's going to kind of stick down nicely, like that. And then we'll kind of work our way down the cover. So here, and I'm just going to try and get as close as I can possibly get to the edges, like that. Now, I mean, obviously, as you can see, you know, this bag, I've had it for years. It was a kind of, you know, fake designer bag that I bought on holiday once, you know, and as you can see, you know, it's kind of falling apart, which clearly you would not expect the designer version to do. So, you know, but I'm hoping that kind of once it's actually glued onto here, this cracking will stop, if you see what I mean. Plus we're going to obviously hopefully coat it, so you know, hopefully that will kind of get around that. So actually I quite like the underside, weirdly enough. You know, on there it looks quite nice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move that flower out of the way, and we're just going to cut along here. As close as we can to the cover, and obviously down this edge just to neaten it up. Oops. Okay, so I think that looks, you know, quite nice. Obviously it's quite a bright pink, so now what I think we'll try and do is kind of age it slightly. So obviously I haven't tried this before, so I'm going to just take that piece that we cut off and experiment a little bit on here. So let me check I'm filming, I'm in the frame. Yep. So we're just going to kind of distress it a little bit and kind of see what that does. Now, as you can see, it is kind of, you know, vulnerable places, kind of messing with the fabric a bit. I don't mind that, and hopefully that's not going to happen so much on here because this is glued down now. But I mean, if it does, it does. I still think that looks good, you know, so hopefully you guys kind of think that too. So actually, rather than put this in the bin, I'm going to keep it to one side in case we want to do any other experiments, you know, before working on the live piece. So I'm just going to take the ink here and ink up around on the fake leather. Now, when I laid it out, because obviously, you know, I wanted a kind of semi-plan for what I was doing on this video. So, you know, hence I kind of had laid out the crochet piece from the shoe. And obviously, you know, I laid out kind of to one side the pieces that I was potentially going to use here for the cover. So I laid out, and I know this sounds a very odd choice out of all the fabrics that I've got, but I laid out this blue. I don't know why, but for some reason the blue was kind of pulling me in. Obviously we have got pink and things which possibly, you know, possibly do look better. But for some reason the blue was kind of calling to me. And we also had that flower that we haven't used yet from my daughter's dress. So I'm kind of thinking or swaying towards this flower. I have got this piece which was from some old jewellery of mine. So again, just rubbish, you know, kind of some broken jewellery that kind of I had kept the bits that obviously I wanted to keep from the kind of broken chain, you know, that I thought were too nice to kind of just bin, which just looks so pretty and obviously goes so well with the pink. So, you know, I kind of wonder about having something like that. And I do wonder whether we could do a bit of a kind of collage effect here on the front. So if I just pull the skirt back in, we've got a little bit of kind of ruffly type bit there that we've already kind of been cutting. And then if I just cut a little bit of the kind of net skirt fabric itself. And again, I'm going to cut it away from the ruffly bit. And then cut here. I mean, as I say, when I do kind of journals, I don't tend to kind of do them in any particular order. I just do whichever page or part takes my fancy. So, you know, hence we're doing the cover now. I'm aware we haven't obviously finished all the pages, but I just fancied mixing it up and doing something kind of different. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with that, really. So, I mean, it might be this doesn't really work. Let's cut a strip of this. Again, we will probably just have to cut it because, you know, it doesn't seem to like tearing against how it's been cut into the triangle shape. And I just need to get rid of this edge where it's got a little bit of, you know, the seam where it was stitched together in the triangle shape. So I'll just get rid of that. Oh, now it's just going right into the middle. There we go. So, I mean, I'm kind of wondering if we could just do some sort of like collage here. So, you know, we could maybe kind of have some net down here. And then we could kind of, I mean, I was thinking we could ruffle this, but actually it looks kind of quite nice even just straight on there, doesn't it? Like that. We could have this little piece from the skirt. That looks quite pretty on there. I also had that big heart that we didn't end up using. Would have been nice to use that somewhere, but I do really love this in the middle of the flower, to be honest. So probably not. We could kind of have some of this fabric somewhere. Maybe I'll tear a piece off that we could kind of have, you know, ruffled over there. I think that looks quite nice. So I'm going to just go for it now and stick down. Now again, I want to make sure that things are going to stick onto this faux leather. So I'm going to just take this little piece of fabric and I'm going to just experiment how well that sticks onto there. Because the last thing we want to do is kind of find that actually it doesn't stick onto there at all. So let me check, I'm filming in frame. Yeah. So just wait a couple of seconds for that to dry. Right, do you see what's happened here? Is unfortunately, it just peels away. So what I could do is try sticking it now to the foam and see whether it does kind of stick to the foam. So I'm just going to stick it on the reverse side there. And if it doesn't, then obviously we may have to have a plain cover, you know, which obviously was not what I had first planned. But, you know, we can go with that. So let's have a look. Hold on. Let's see. Might be it's still a bit wet, but right. So that seems to have glued okay onto the foam. You know, I'm having to pull that pretty hard to actually pull it away. So, you know, if you weren't pulling at that, it would kind of stick onto there, I think. So there's that. I will just see whether the, I was going to say whether the wet glue is better, but actually I'm not going to do that. Well, yeah, we might as well. So we'll just try a piece here onto the wet glue. Now obviously the problem is we're not going to have time for this to dry. So there we go. So I might just leave that now for a while we kind of test that out and see whether that's going to dry. So I will go off, I'll have a cup of tea, I'll stop the video, and then we'll come back and see whether that has dried. And then we'll kind of go from there. Obviously, in the meantime, I need to kind of think of a fallback plan because, you know, maybe we're going to have to just go with this as plain, you know, plain as it is. That's fine. It's obviously not quite as I'd wanted it, but, you know, we can go with that. So I will go and get a cup of tea, leave this drying, hopefully. Doesn't appear to be drying at all. Hold on. Let me glue it again. A bit more glue, maybe. And then we'll kind of see what's going on in a little while. Perhaps I'll use a fresh piece of fabric. Right. And actually, what I might do is just pop another piece down with the hot glue while we're just experimenting here anyway, and see whether, you know, having left it for a while, how well that sticks. So I'm going to get a cup of tea and then I will be back shortly and we'll see what's going on and, you know, the way forward then. So see you in a minute. Right guys, so I'm back. This is a couple of cups of tea later. So I have just kind of come back and peeled this one off. So this was the wet glue and this was the hot glue. So the hot glue, I did manage to pull it off, but I was pulling pretty hard, to be honest. And, you know, I mean, obviously this is intended to be for sale. I'm pretty sure that nobody who buys it will be really trying to pull the fabric off, because obviously why would you buy something and kind of actually try and kind of destroy it? So, you know, I'm reasonably confident that it does glue onto there. You know, I mean, to be fair, you could pull anything off, obviously, you know, if you kind of really yanked at it. So, you know, I think it's going to work. So what I'm going to do is, obviously it doesn't want to glue to the actual pink. It wants to glue to the more foamy kind of layer underneath. So that being said, what I kind of need to do is go along the edge and kind of, you know, peel the pink layer off. So there's probably a much quicker way of doing this, but I'm kind of just thinking I'm going to go along with the glue, stick my fabric down, and then peel it off. And that will hopefully kind of then, you know, take it all off like that. So, you know, I'm sure there is a better method, but this seems pretty, you know, time efficient to me and kind of, you know, straightforward. And, you know, if you watch my channel, as you know, I'm all about the easy. I don't want to do anything that's kind of complicated or kind of too involved. So we just do the nice, quick, easy method. So here we go. Again, just gluing that down, peeling it back. Because we just want a kind of straight run that we can obviously then glue our fabric onto. So nearly done, like that. There we go. So, you know, I'm happy that that's kind of, you know, good enough. And we're going to then pop this fabric trim straight down onto that run of the peeled up, you know, onto the foam basically. So what I'm going to do is kind of do it in stages, because obviously once the glue starts to dry, it does go instantly kind of hard. Let me check I'm in frame and I'm filming. Yeah. It does go instantly hard, so I don't want that happening because the fabric's not going to be ruffled. It would then show. So I'm just going to literally, in stages, glue the fabric down. So hopefully I can get it kind of nice and flat, if that makes sense. Like that. A bit more here. Like that. And then the final piece down there like that. Okay. So that's kind of the first piece that obviously we've popped on there. So that looks good. Now I'm just trying to get rid of the threads of glue. Obviously we want to have this flower here. So, you know, now I don't know now whether to kind of have this little piece of net or not bother. Kind of just sometimes with a fresh pair of eyes, you kind of see things slightly differently, don't you? And, you know, I'm not really sure that that's kind of necessarily, you know, required. So I might just pop the centre down into the flower, or onto the flower. I'm just going to kind of hold that down like that because I want it kind of separating these petals. That makes sense. So I'm just going to again hold the centre here, pop some hot glue on, and then just stick it straight down like that. There we go. So, you know, we can have it like that. Now, I can't remember now what we thought we might do with this. That looks quite pretty. Kind of going along, whoops, just along the middle of this fabric piece. So I might just kind of add that onto there. Looks pretty. Unfortunately sticking onto me now with the hot glue threads. And then it's kind of, do we want this here or not really? So we could kind of have it ruffled up. Let's just have a look. I mean, actually it's kind of nice being quite plain, so I might just leave that just with this. We can obviously always come back and add more should we kind of feel the need later, but at the moment I'm kind of thinking maybe just kind of like this, the whole less is more kind of thing. It's not very often that I say that, but in this particular one that's kind of where I'm leaning. So, and then what we're going to do is pop the flower on here. Now again, obviously this flower, I hope that I'm in frame, let me just check that I am before I kind of describe what I'm planning on doing. The flower here is going to glue onto this little section here. So what I need to do is again kind of peel that layer up so that the flower glues down onto the foam part rather than the pink. So like that. So what I'm going to do is just glue around, and I will glue onto here. So hopefully it will kind of go onto the fabric and the foam like that. Now I just think that looks really pretty just like that. And again, I haven't got my Mod Podge with me, but probably in another episode we will kind of just check that the Mod Podge works and you know, all being well, Mod Podge over this, because then hopefully that will stop this kind of coming up anyway. So there we go. Just check that that's kind of glued on. Now I have just seen there's a little bit here. So I'm just going to kind of glue that down, and that's actually gluing to the base of the flower itself, if you see what I mean, rather than the actual book top. So I just want to kind of make sure it's really stuck well. So, I mean, I think that looks really pretty now. There Okay, so I really like that. And obviously we did this page earlier. So the book's really coming together now. Let me check the time. Right, 8 minutes. So I think we're kind of up to our hour today. So we shall probably have to kind of leave it there for this episode. But the journal is definitely kind of coming along. So I hope that you enjoyed the episode. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next time. So thanks very much for tuning in. And have a good day. Thanks, Em. Bye.